Maria is a devout Catholic. She gets married and has 17 children. Then her husband dies. She remarries 2 weeks later and has 22 children by her next husband. Then he dies. A while later she dies. At the funeral, the priest looks skyward and says, "At least they're finally together." A guy sitting in the front row says, "Excuse me, Father, but do you mean her and her first husband, or her and her second husband?" The priest says, "I mean her legs." A small boy walks into his mother's room and catches her topless. "Mummy, Mummy, what are these?" he says, pointing to her breasts. "Well, son," she says, "these are balloons, and when you die, they inflate and float you up to heaven." Incredibly, he appears to believe this explanation and goes off quite satisfied. 2 days later, while his mother is making tea, he rushes into the kitchen. "Mummy, Mummy, Aunt Mary is dying." "What do you mean?" says his mother. "Well, she's in the garden shed, lying on the floor. Both her balloons are out, Dad's blowing them up, and she keeps yelling, 'God, I'm coming, I'm coming.'" A guy steps into an elevator, and there's just one attractive woman in it. He turns around to push the button for his floor, and his elbow bumps right into her breast. He says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. If your heart is as soft as your breast, I hope you'll be able to forgive me." She looks at him a few seconds and says, "That's all right. If your penis is as hard as your elbow, I'm in room 204. A few months after his parents were divorced, little Johnny passed by his mum's bedroom and saw her rubbing her body and moaning, "I need a man, I need a man." Over the next couple of months, he saw her doing this several times. One day, he came home from school and heard her moaning. When he peeked into her bedroom, he saw a man on top of her. Little Johnny ran into his room, took off his clothes, threw himself on his bed, started stroking himself, and moaned, "Oh, I need a bike! I need a bike!" At a conference on the supernatural, one of the speakers asked, "Who here has ever seen a ghost?" Most of the hands go up. "And how many of you have had some form of interaction with a ghost?" About half the hands stay up. "Okay, now, how many of you have had physical contact with a ghost?" 3 hands stay up. There's a slight murmur in the crowd. "Gosh, that's pretty good. Okay, have any of you ever, been intimate with a ghost?" 1 hand stays up. The speaker blinks. "Gosh, sir, are you telling us that you've actually had sexual contact with a ghost?" The guy with his hand up suddenly blushes and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you said goat." A family's driving behind a garbage truck when a dildo flies out and thumps against the windshield. Embarrassed and trying to spare her young son's innocence, the mother turns around and says, "Don't worry, dear. That was just an insect." "Wow," the boy replies. "I'm surprised it could get off the ground with a cock like that." The man with his son came to the zoo. The mother asked the son later, "Honey, what animal do you like best of all in the zoo?" "The tiger." "And who does your father like best of all?" "The kitty." "What kitty? Are there any cats in the zoo?" "No, but my father likes the kitty, which was sitting in the cash and selling tickets." Harry and his wife are having hard financial times, so they decide that she'll become a hooker. She's not quite sure what to do. So Harry says, "Stand in front of that bar and pick up a guy. Tell him that you charge $100. If you got a question, I'll be parked around the corner." She's standing there for 5 minutes when a guy pulls up and asks, "How much?" She says, $100. He says, "All I got is 30. She says, "Hold on," and runs back to Harry and asks, "What can he get for 30? "A hand job," Harry reply. She runs back and tells the guy all he gets for $30 is a hand job. He agrees. She gets in the car, he unzips his pants, and out pops this huge. She stares at it for a minute and then says, "I'll be right back." She runs back to Harry and asks, "Can you loan this guy $70? Mary was having an affair during the day while her husband, John, was at work. One day she was in bed with her boyfriend, Ralph, and she heard her husband's car pull in the driveway. She yelled at Ralph, "Hurry, grab your clothes and jump out the window. My husband is home early." Ralph looked out the window and said, I can't jump out the window. It's raining like hell out there. Mary cried. If my husband catches us in here, he will kill both of us. So the boyfriend grabbed his clothes and jumped out the window. When he landed outside, he found himself in the middle of a marathon race. So he started running alongside the others, only he was still in the nude, carrying his clothes on his arm. One of the runners asked him, "Do you always run in the nude?" Ralph answered, while gasping for air, "Oh yes, it feels so free having the air blow over your skin while you are running." The other runner then asked the nude man, "Do you always run carrying your clothes on your arm?" Ralph answered breathlessly, "Oh yes, that way I can get dressed at the end of the run and get in my car to go home." The runner then asked, "Do you always wear a condom when you run?" Ralph answered, "Only if it's raining." There once was a young Irish woman who went to confession. Upon entering the confessional, she said, "Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned." The priest said, "Confess your sins and be forgiven." The young woman said, "Last night my boyfriend made mad passionate love to me 7 times. The priest thought long and hard and then said, "Take 7 lemons and squeeze them into a glass and then drink it." The young woman asked, "Will this cleanse me of my sins?" The priest said, "No, but it will wipe the smile off of your face." One day, this old man was about to have sex with a young girl, which he did not know. The old man began to put on his condom when the young girl asked him, "Why is he putting one on?" She said, "You don't have to worry about getting me pregnant because you are too old, and you don't have to worry about catching anything because you are going to die pretty soon anyway." The old man continued to put on his condom. He then looked up at the girl and said, "Young girl, the reason I am putting on this condom isn't because I am afraid of getting you pregnant or catching anything. I just like the scent of burning rubber." A guy is sitting at the doctor's office. The doctor walks in and says, "I have some bad news. I'm afraid you're going to have to stop masturbating." "I don't understand, Doc," the patient says. "Why?" "Because," the doctor says, "I'm trying to examine you." 3 guys are discussing women. "I like to watch a woman's tits best," the first guy says. The second says, "I like to look at a woman's ass." He asks the third guy, "What about you?" "Me? I prefer to see the top of her head."